Hello, African American Lit. My name is James Tunnell. I am doing my major author essay and presentation on Chester Himes, specifically his novel If He Hollers, Let Him Go. The picture you see right here is obviously of him later in life. Uh, this particular picture was taken while he was in France, living there as an expatriate. To start off, we'll talk about some biographical information. He was born July 29th, 1909 in Jefferson City, Missouri. He came from a well-educated background. His father was a professor. He taught metal trades at what was known at the time as Branch Normal College, which is now Arkansas Pine Bluff. Um, and his mother was a teacher as well. So they were firmly a middle-class family. Though, I mean, he had the middle class background. He actually had kind of a troubled young adulthood. He was expelled as a freshman at or I guess it's OSU, but Ohio State University, for pulling a prank. And he would later be sentenced to 20 to 25 years for attempting an armed robbery in 1928. He only ended up serving 7.5 years of that for good behavior. Um, but he was married twice. Once, the first time to Jean Johnson, and then Leslie Packard was his second wife. He met her as an expatriate in France much later on in his life. He died November 12th, 1984, in Moreira, Spain. He suffered from Parkinson's disease, and that eventually led to his death. He was shaped by racism all throughout his life. A quick story that kind of accentuates that is when he was a young boy, his mother asked him and his brother to prepare an experiment for a presentation that she was having at her school. It had to do with gunpowder. And while they were preparing it, something went wrong and it exploded and shot in his brother's face. And so they all rushed off to the hospital. And they were refused treatment because of their color. And so that always stuck in his mind. He could remember his dad crying and his mom being hysterical, and he just remembers wanting to lash out in violence. Um, as far as his literary career goes, he began writing short stories while he was in jail. He would send them off to publications like the Bronzeman, Esquire, and the Crisis. The Crisis being the periodical that the NAACP sent out. His first novels were If He Hollers, Let Him Go, and The Lonely Crusade. After he got out of prison, he briefly worked as a screenwriter at Warner Brothers until he was fired for racial reasons. A few other books of his were Cast the First Stone, A Rage in Harlem, Yesterday Will Make You Cry, and Blind Man with a Pistol. He won the 1958 Grand Prix de Littérature Policière, sorry for my poor pronunciation. That award is given to the best French crime novel of the year, and he won it in 1958. What I'm going to be focusing on in If He Hollers, Let Him Go is the sociological criticism. Um, Basically, what I'm going to be looking at is how the society that these novels or that this novel is set in, how it affects the characters. So we have the widespread racism and the societal resentment of the main character. He is a leader, or he has a leadership position in a shipyard in World War II era Los Angeles. And though he's in a position of leadership, he is still looked down upon and constantly abused by other his white workers. They resent him for being either above them or having the same level of duties to perform. They think that all black people should be lower down on the rung. I'm going to be looking at how retaliation always results in the black party losing the argument, There's a scene later on that kind of is like Potiphar's wife and Joseph in the Bible, and how that kind of excuse me, how that goes along with Alain Locke's The New Negro. I'm going to be looking at the concept of black identity. There are different types of black characters in this book. You have lighter skinned Alice, who is the main character, Bob Jones. It's his girlfriend and how she interacts with white culture. And then I'm going to be looking at post-colonialism, a kind of a subcategory of that known as Orientalism, and that basically is that how the ruling class projects everything that they see in themselves that is kind of the bad parts of themselves. They project that onto what is known as the other, which in this case is African Americans. But I'm mostly going to be focusing on how Bob Jones is a model for the African American psyche. A quick quote that I really liked of his that deals with this is he says, "If this plumbing for the truth reveals within the Negro personality homicidal mania, lust for white women, a pathetic sense of inferiority, paradoxical anti-Semitism, arrogance, Uncle Tomism, hate and fear and self-hate. This, then, is the effects excuse me, of oppression on the human personality. These are the daily horrors, the daily realities, the daily experiences of an oppressed minority." So we're going to be looking at how the society affects the black psyche through Bob Jones. A bit of trivia: he was best known for his hard-boiled detective novels, known as the Harlem Detective series. He moved to France, as mentioned earlier, in the 1950s, and stayed in Europe until his death. He was friends with Langston Hughes, Richard Wright, and Malcolm X. And interestingly, he didn't gain recognition among social critics until he moved to France later in his life and started writing those detective novels. And lastly, 4 of his novels made it into movies, though they came under criticism for not being true to the source material. That's all I have for my presentation. Thanks for listening.